Greetings and welcome, mis amigos. We today are adding one more skill to our solving abilities. We are leveling up, and we are going to be solving absolute value equations. All right, and here's a little fact, Ethan. It says an absolute value equation is an equation that contains an absolute value expression, right? Absolute value is kind of like just like the tall 11 bars, I don't know, right? It's going to have an absolute value in it somewhere. And you can solve these types of equations by solving, so you can solve absolute value by solving two related linear equations. So Ethan, we're going to take a single absolute value equation and break it into two, right? So notice 1 here becomes 2. All right, this is like going to be like cell division here. So here, first of all, absolute value, you might remember, is the distance a number is from 0, and absolute value takes a number and makes it non-negative in the case of it being 0. So let A and B be real numbers. Here's some properties of absolute value, right, Cameron? So the following properties are true. Absolute value of A is greater than or equal to 0, right? So I'm going to say, Ethan, that absolute value will give you a non-negative. Why do you think I said non-negative and just said it instead of just saying positive? What's the difference of those things? Is there a difference between those terms? Is there a number that is included in one but not the other? Positive numbers are like 1, 2, 3.7, pi, a Google. Non-negative numbers would include one additional number, exactly one. The number 0, right? 0 is not a positive number, but 0 is a possible outcome of absolute value. So the first thing we know about absolute value is it's non-negative in its outcome. We also have that the absolute value of the opposite of A is equal to the absolute value of A, right? That they just equal out, they work. This is a type of distribution over multiplication, right, Cameron? Multiplication. And so notice if I have absolute value of two things being multiplied, I could actually break that up into multiple absolute values. Be careful when you're doing this, because sometimes like your absolute values can look like 1s. So you got to make sure they're like tall. And then also, how could anyone describe 4 here? So it turns out absolute value can also be distributed over division. So over division. So those are just like a few properties. Division. No, that's not how you spell division. I-O-N. There we go. All right. And here we go. Big idea. This is like massive. All right. Massive. If I have an absolute value equation and it's equal to something that's non-negative, what I can do is break it into two cases. Break it up. Either the inside of the absolute value was positive. Notice, how are these two things similar and how are they different? The only thing that changed between these two is what? It lost the absolute value bars, right? And then what's the similarity or difference between these two? Yeah, it loses the absolute value and it's equal to the opposite of C, right? Or negative C is what they said. So, and then it's got a third situation. It says if C is ever negative, then there's no solution. Right? Like if I said, what value of x makes this true? you would say none, right? You'd just be like, no, and then you'd run away, right? Because that's what you should do anytime you're asked to solve an absolute value equation that's equal to a negative. No, because absolute values will never give me a negative. Remember, that's property 1 up here, right? It's always going to be 0 or positive. So if you have an equation equal to a negative, it's just not going to work, right? No trabajando. Maybe? No, I don't think that's how it works. Aha, example 1, perfect. Right, so Cameron, once we do example 1, then you can sign out real quick. So, let's everybody write this down. This is so big. You guys are going to want to just pretend that the absolute value isn't there. So, solve each equation, graph the solutions if possible. We haven't even talked about graphing yet. So, I've got absolute value of x minus 4 equals 6. Is 6 a non-negative number? Correct. So I can break this up into 2 cases. Either x minus 4, the inside of this, was 6 the whole time and the absolute value was useless, or x minus 4 was equal to negative 6, right? Maybe the inside of this was negative 6 and the absolute value of negative 6 became positive 6. So those are the 2 cases, and guess what? We can even throw an or in between those because it was either one or the t'other. And we're going to solve both of these, and we may have as many as 2 solutions to this problem. And now that these are just linear equations, they don't have absolute value, I solve all normal style. So how do I get x by itself over here? Ah, good correction, you caught it. Add 4 to both sides, and notice it happens to be the same step over here. I love this. So, well, I have my second color writing utensil out. I just keep writing across. So I'm going to have x equals 6 plus 4 is 10. That's one of my answers. And over here, x equals, because these 4's minus cancel out, sorry. And negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Okay, so I get 2 solutions to this problem. Now it asks us to graph the solutions. The way you graph numbers is on a number line. And my number lines are el más fácil del mundo, mis amigos. I'm not looking for anything fancy. I want 0 on your number line, and then I want our 2 numbers. So I'll have like 10 way over here, and then negative 2 should be closer to the 0 than 10, right? So just kind of roughly to scale. And when I graph this, I'm going to put a circle at 10. So there's one solution. And a circle at negative 2. 2 solutions. Okay. So you break it up into 2 cases, right? Break it up. If, now this is super illegal, you will on the test, someone's going to end up doing this, someone's going to write plus 4 to both sides, and I will just mark the entire thing wrong. And you see why they'd want to try that, right? But that is el más illegal del mundo, mis amigos. And now, well, this is like 2 separate problems. But check this out. Part B. I've got the absolute value of something equals, and I notice this immediately. Right? An absolute value is always going to equal a non-negative. So when I see part B, I say, no solution. Get out of here, you. You're not going to make me solve this problem. That's impossible. Right? Abs-val cannot equal a negative. All right. So that's the initial case of these types of problems. So let's do these monitoring progress ones. This is muy importante. Okay. All right. Here we go. It's gonna be good. All right. So I'm gonna do this first one with us. Absolute value of x equals 10. 2 cases, break it up. Either, this will be super easy to solve as well, either x equals positive 10, or x equals what? Negative 10. And let's solve these. Guys, how do I solve this equation for x? It's already solved for x is by itself, right? I'm done. How easy was that? And this one as well. Done and done. So let's graph this. Make a numbre line. Yeah, you can sign out if you need to, Cameron. 0, 10, and negative 10. And let's plot those points, Ethan. Either x was negative 10. Oh, I thought I picked down green here. And positive 10. Super simple number lines. Right? Okay, let's have you guys try problems 2 and 3. I'll walk around to help y'all. It'll be good. I'm on my way. Like a kitty cat. I always say that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Pitch it up. All right, I had some students doing illegal things, but that's completely normal for these problems. Ethan, you with me here? All right. For problem 2, either x minus 1 is 4, right? Maybe the inside of this absolute value is 4, and abs 4 is equal to 4, right? Or x minus 1 is equal to negative 4, right? Maybe the inside of this absolute value is negative 4, and the absolute value then made it positive. Those are our 2 separate cases. Ethan, you track with me, friend. No hablamos. Necesitamos enseñar matemáticas. All right, so Amity, to solve this, I add 1 to both sides. Same over here. I get x equals 5. And x equals, Pooja, what was this one? I know, my work is kind of blending over here. The negative 3, this is what you said earlier, right? So I get 2 solutions, Amity. Right? No, I agreed with you. Oh, I put an X because you had just simply done this. I need to see X equals is all. Yeah. So let's see. Let's plot the points. So I need 5 and -3. Notice I made my -3 closer to 0 than 5, so it's like somewhat to scale, right? And let's plot those points. Plot those points. And so -3 and 5. Now, did anyone try question 3? We don't have to do it? What, you guys are just so like defiant? You're like, you can't make me do math, Mr. Waddy. Why don't we have to do this? Yeah, there's no solution because absolute values will never be negative, right? It's never going to give me a negative. Okay, guys, we're picking it up a notch. You ready for this? Well, see, I made a statement, and now suddenly here's like a semi-counterexample modification. All right, example 2. Now, this is the claim that a student just made. Hey, isn't this equal to a negative? Check this out. This absolute value is not the only thing on this side of the equal sign. Step 1, I'm going to want to isolate the absolute value. All right, what does that mean? Get the absolute value by itself so that I get absolute value equals something. This one is absolute value minus 10 equals something. And then I'll break it up. Okay? So that's what I've got to do first. How can I get this absolute value by itself? Right? If I'm pretending that like this is what I want by itself, how do I get rid of this minus 10? I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So I can't break it up until the absolute value is solamente, mis amigos. So I'm going to get absval 3x plus 9 equals, what's -4 plus 10? See, signs are different, so I subtract them. And who's more influential? The 4, 10 is further from 0 than 4, so it's positive 6. Now notice, I no longer have the problem of an absolute value equaling a negative. So that means this problem is solvable. And now that the absolute value is by itself, all right, that's what isolated means. You're by yourself. Now that it's the only thing on this side of the equal sign, now I can break it up. Break it up, right? Break it up. So either 3x plus 9 equals 6, or 3x plus 9 equals what? What are my two cases? Either the inside was this, or the inside was negative this. -6 in this case. All right. So let's have you guys solve these real quick, because you guys are masters at solving linear expressions and equations. It's the absolute value that's throwing us off. Whoa, I almost tripped on my sail. It's. I bet one of your answers will be right. I suspect the other one won't be. Oh, then I mark it completely wrong if you only give me one answer. Completely. Even though it's half of the answers. But don't you worry, don't you worry. All right, excellent question. How did I know I had to break this up? Because this had absolute value. If these were not here, then I would solve it normal. So this is what you got to look for. When you see these lines, you could imagine them like morphing into arrows, breaking it up, right? That's what you could imagine. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something ridiculous to say that might help us remember. So these bars, the absolute value bars, is the only thing that tells me to break this up. So let's see. Then I would subtract 9 both sides. 3x equals -3 over here, and 3x equals -15. And then to get 3 by itself, or x by itself, silly me, I would inverse multiplication by 3, divide both sides by 3. So I'm going to get x equals -1, and x equals, what did we get over here? -5. All right, so 2 solutions, and that's what they look like. All right, 2 solutions. Let's see, let's plot those on a number line. So I'm going to have 0, I'll have -1, and -5, something like that. And let's plot some points. So one of mine is at -5, the other one is at -1. Let's see. I'm going to break this lesson into 2 parts, just like it was an absolute value problem. All right, but we're going to do these last monitoring progress 4, 5, and 6 together. I see some of you guys have already attempted these problems, which is good, Actually, I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give myself a little bit more space. So, problem 4, we've got to get the absolute value by itself for all of these first. Let's see, I'm assembling here. All right, so let's have you guys give these a try. I'm going to help you with 5. And then your boss fight today is question 6. And then we'll do some partner work in a moment. A gallery walk even. It's gonna be amazing. Sorry, I just got a little excited there. Okay, so I'm gonna do 5, and then you guys will do 4 and 6. So can I break this up? No, I can't break it up. Not yet. Not yet. I got to get rid of this 4 first. All right. Step 1, isolate the absolute value. How do I get rid of multiplying by 4? Divide. Now you might have the tendency to want to distribute, and actually you could technically get away with it this time, but if it weren't for the meddling kids of once in a while when this happened to be a negative, that would mess us up. So I'm going to just say don't distribute into absolute value because it doesn't work all the time. So let's divide both sides by 4 first, and watch what happens. Swipe, swipe. I'm going to get the absolute value by itself, so abs 2x plus 7 equals, and Pooja, what did you say this was? 4. And now that the absolute value is by itself, I would break it up. Let's have you guys take it away from there. Take it away, Squidward. Count it down the sunset. I don't know if these. Might still be. Not okay. We've got like a week and a half or something. I don't remember. All right, internet friends, I'm back. Hopefully you've been trying the home version here. I don't have candy now. So when I broke this one up, either 2x plus 7 equals 4, or 2x plus 7 equals negative 4. Right? How are we doing at the break it up step? Let me get a show of hands. How are we doing at the break it up step? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Where are we at? Right, we don't have to like it, but do we know how to do it, right? Because it's more work. It's like, wait, why would I want to do 2 problems when I could have just done 1, even though doing 1 problem is wrong? I agree, it's more work. So when I break it up, notice it's either equal to the same-o version, or it's Bizarro World, Cameron, and it's equal to the negative. So let's solve for x. I would subtract 7, and happens to be the same step over here. So while I've got that color out, I just do it all at the same time. So I'd have 2x equals negative 3, and 2x equals negative 11. And now, how could I solve for x? How do I get rid of this 2 here? I like it. And it's the same step for both sides there, which is kind of cool, right? Because these are my like OR cases. So x equals negative 3 halves, or x equals negative 11 halves. Which, by the way, in this case, that is negative 1.5, and this is negative 5.5. So on a number line, I'd have to plot like little decimals, kind of. All right, question 4. Let's see. Let's see. Ethan, could you walk me through question 4? All right. He's in the zone. Question 4. I've got to get the absolute value by itself first. So what did you do to get that done? Yeah, subtract 5 from both sides. So I get abs x minus 2 equals 4. And now can I add 2 to both sides? Super illegal. I tricked you guys. I've got to break it up, right? Once I get the absolute value by itself, I break it into 2 cases. Either x minus 2 is 4, or x minus 2 is Bizarro World negative 4. This is like parallel universes here. And now I can plus 2 to both sides. Or all 4 sides, I guess, if you want to think about it like that. So I get x equals 6 and x equals negative 2. All right. They say to check your solutions. I didn't take the time to do that. We'll do some more of that tomorrow, I think. All right, last problem, boss fight. Did anyone own this boss? Question 6? No? All right. Now track with me here, friends. Track with me. We're going to spend a second day on this. I'm glad we are doing so. My goal is to get the absolute value by itself. Do I have 100% attention right here? 100%. If you don't have this problem solved all by yourself, you need to be paying attention here. Look out, boss fight. Dun, 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 dun. I've got negative 2 being multiplied by the absolute value, and I'm subtracting 3 from it. Which do I deal with first, multiplication or subtraction? For solving, remember we SAD map. So I actually map. So I deal with the subtraction before I deal with multiplication. What's the inverse of subtracting 3? Add 3. So I'm going to have negative 2 abs val 5x minus 1 close abs val. Ladies and gentlemen, settle down. Equals negative 8. How do I get rid of multiplication by negative 2? Now, even if you were confused today, say on the absolute value part, you would still know how to answer that question. How do I get rid of multiply by negative 2? Divide both sides by negative 2. If you tried to distribute, you would break the law. So, super illegal to do this. And yeah, negative over negatives, those cancel out, become positive. How are we doing on this boss fight? Fabulous. Excellent. And so this is equal to positive 4. Good news, bad news. Good news, absolute value equals a positive, which means it's solvable. Bad news, that means I don't just get to write no solution because it was equal to a negative. So I've got to solve this. Jimmy, how do I get rid of this absolute value? How do I deal with this? I've got absolute value equals a number. Break it up. Break it up. So either 5x minus 1 equals 4. And what's the Bizarro World universe? 5x minus 1 equals what? Negative 4. Perfect. I can't break it up until the absolute value is by itself. So let me emphasize that again. So all of this was get abs val by itself. And then I break it up, right? Break it up. Yeah, don't worry. We still got plenty of time then. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't you fret. Now, so let's solve both of these, and these conveniently have exactly the same steps. I don't even know the answers, actually. What do I deal with first? Amity, put that away and answer the question. You walk me through this problem. How do I get x by itself? That'd create fractions. It's a choice, but it's a tough one. What's a better way to do it? Add 1. And let's do that over here too. I like it. I like it. This will probably have fractions, but we're okay with fractions. 5x equals 5. And over here, 5x equals, what's that going to result as? I like it. Now, Amity, what do I do? How do I get rid of that 5? Divide both sides, divide both sides. Everybody loves fractions. So x equals 1, she said, and x equals, this is already reduced. Let's leave that as -3/5. So 2 solutions, right? The solutions doubled when I cell divided the absolute value into 2 cases. All right, thank you for watching, internet friends. Have a great day.